Welcome to the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. This is a special episode of the Brain Software Podcast. First, it's our launch of a new series called In-Betweener Episodes, where we're bringing in guests. We'll number them differently from regular podcasts. Second, for the first time, we have in the studio a live guest. This is the first time we brought a live guest in since switching to a video podcast format. And third, this is not just any ordinary guest. He is literally the Kenny G of hypnosis, and we're not talking about his soprano sax or his silhouette.
No, and we're going to do no editing in this, no intro.
Except for retakes.
Just the retakes, no commercials, and we want to welcome Ken. It's great to see you, buddy. You're
Ken
in
Guzzo.
Canada, and we've been friends for a number of years now, and let's talk about hypnosis and Ken Guzzo, the man.
So first of all, how about we do this? Let's start with, who are you?
Who is
and
the
how
guy?
did we meet you? Talk about how you got involved in hypnosis, your focus on smoking cessation, all the stuff that you're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, you just gave away the secret.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man. Now what am I going to talk about? Well, my name is Ken Guzzo. I'm actually Canadian. I grew up not too far from here. And I've been in California practicing hypnosis since 2006, and I made my reputation in smoking cessation. That's where I got, kind of got known for. And now it's about a 25-30% of my business, but I've helped over 10,000 people stop smoking in one session with a lifetime guarantee. And I've been 100% referral for well over 10 years now. And the nice thing about being referral is people come back and say, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help my cousin with that? And the answer is pretty much always yes.
That's it. Yes, as we say.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Awesome.
So the most of my business is now evolution intervention, which I just started teaching at Hypnothoughts last year. The course sold out in 3 days, and it's sold out again this year. There's one spot left. There's one spot left.
Oh,
Nice.
I can't wait to hang out with you again in Vegas. It's been way too long because we've missed
And
the
that's
last
where
2
we
years.
met.
That's where we met. We
Yeah,
met at the Alligator Bar in Las Vegas.
We did.
That's right.
And I was certain that you two were a couple.
Yeah, our wives would differ with that.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Okay, so and that might have been a little bit of a Carl Smith humor there.
That was, I think,
maybe
you might have been
Carl
responsible for that.
Yeah, so we started going to Hypnothoughts live. Was it around 2015, Mike?
I don't know, Chris. I think we've done 5 of them. We've had 2 years off.
We had to miss 2,
Right.
during the pandemic
Hasn't been the
stuff.
same without you.
Sounds
Okay,
about
so
right.
let's see, 2015,
No.
16, 17, 18, 19, and then, we missed 20 and 20. Yeah, so we've been to 5. We
Yep.
started in 2015, so that's when we met you, which was awesome. And we went there, we've said this on the show before, and we thought, all this hypnosis stuff we see on YouTube, it's all a bunch of
so
crap.
much crap.
We're going to show up and we're going to show them all how it's
Don't
done.
you know who
And
I
then
think I am?
we
I'm
met
Mike
guys
Van
like-
Effingdell. Yeah.
We met guys like this, and we met
Yes,
Jason Lynette, we met
David
James Tripp, and we
Snyder.
met David Snyder, we met
Amazing,
Carl
amazing
Smith, and all these
trainers.
amazing
Yeah.
people. You know what just recurred to me is we're
What's that,
supposed to,
Chris?
when there's more than 2 people, you're not supposed to talk over each other because apparently that screws up the listening
Right.
experience.
So let's start the whole
Anyway,
thing again.
we met Ken. We met a lot of other awesome people. Ken was the token photographer for all the parties and stuff because
Yes.
you had a nice camera and you love taking pictures, hundreds of them, which you'd post on Facebook. And it was an amazing experience. But we all got to it took a few years actually because we didn't even get a chance to hang out much the first year or 2.
No, we didn't. It took a
But
while.
now you're here in the studio.
I'm
And
so pumped to be here.
it's great because we're going to have a little pool party day in my backyard after you inspired the idea of the Hypnothoughts live pool party many years ago.
It was free drinks to like the first 100 people. It was amazing.
We'd show up late. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because, it was the only day we have off.
Mm-hmm.
And so people could go anywhere in Las Vegas, the Strip, anywhere and see a show. And I thought, well, I'm going to throw a pool party. I didn't know how many would come. But
Give them a motivation to
first,
stick around.
First 100 people get a free drink. And everybody came. And so I ran up to the pool bar and I said, just keep the tab running.
Yeah.
And I ended up being 300 drinks that year. And then the second year was 500.
Wow.
Wow. No reason to stop there.
But
So if you just sell a few more spots at your
Yeah.
class, you're good to go then.
Well, the intention was to give a little bit back. But you know
Yeah.
what? 3 people came to the pool party and signed up for my course the
There
next
you
day.
go.
Oh
There
my
you go.
goodness.
I couldn't give it back.
Yeah, it ends
This
up.
is it, buddy.
That's
Isn't that
one
a
of those.
metaphor? I think there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Brilliant.
There is I'm glad you said there's a metaphor because now I'm not going to be tempted to explain what that means to everybody. So I'll just stop there.
Thank you.
But that does, before we get into some conversation around
Yes,
hypnosis,
excellent, yes.
let's talk about Hypnothoughts Live. We've been there many years. You've been there longer than we have.
Yeah.
Why should people go there? Because they should.
Well, if you want to experience literally the greatest hypnosis trainers on the planet, they're all there.
These two guys are pretty good.
It's a place to come, and what I love about Hypnothoughts, and it keeps you coming back every year, is it's not political, it's not cliquey,
true,
it's not exclusionary.
It's every kind of hypnotist you can imagine, and everybody gets along.
And they're not, and the 1 hour talks are not infomercials to a course you need to take.
They're real training.
The people are generous with their what they know, and we're sharing best practices.
Yep.
And there's always something new and interesting. 20% of the speakers are always new speakers. So, you know, and there's been some amazing new speakers that have just blown the cover off of it. So it's, but not only are the courses, I mean, there's hundreds of speakers in courses, but there's what you get after hours between the classes, at the alligator bar, conversations,
the
relationships we build.
It's gold.
The friendships, it's life-changing. This is my tribe.
Yeah.
And
ours too, buddy.
Yeah.
Ours too.
And this is what it's all about for me.
Yeah. It's great. If we hadn't gone to Hypnothoughts Live, we wouldn't have met you. We wouldn't be sitting here today having fun, hanging out at my house,
and about
studios
to eat
at
a bunch
home.
of great food.
Yeah. And enjoying ourselves. So if you are brand new to hypnosis or very experienced, it doesn't matter. htlive.net is the place to go. And we've always told Scott and Richard and Stephanie and the gang behind Hypnothoughts Live that we will promote the show as long as we're able to. We love it. It's a great conference, so definitely go to Hypnothoughts. It's the best.
This is the biggest and best hypnosis convention in the world. You must go.
There's one more thing I'll say about that, and it has to do with the leadership, Scott and Stephanie. One thing I've been so impressed with is the difficult conversations that Scott's been willing to have. Like, we are a self-regulated industry, and in order to be self-regulated, we need to regulate.
Yeah.
You know, ourselves instead of having it imposed on the industry. And Scott legitimately he's transparent. He makes right choices all the freaking time. And I love the integrity that he has and he shows in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So do we.
I as a Canadian, he's my California brother.
And as
so
a Brit,
awesome.
He's my friend.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit more about you, Ken. So first of all, I remember when Ken told me about his practice and what he was doing, and I said, "Well, what's your website?" And he goes, "Oh, my website is like the ugliest hypnosis website you've ever seen in the world."
It, so it's okay.
But how is it possible, how is it possible that you have, as self-described, the worst website in the world, yet you get clients all day long, you get
all the time.
You don't advertise, you get referral business all day long, and that's a sustainable practice based purely on referral business. So I am thinking this is going to lead into one of the next talking points I wrote down, which is that you are one of the most congruent hypnotists that we know. Talk a little bit about what you've done, maybe where you've come from, where you've gone to. How did you build this practice in a nutshell based on referrals?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. I really appreciate that. So when I started out, I was leaving a 6-figure income in the technology sector in downtown San Francisco. So I was, and my wife was 6 months pregnant with our first child. And I said, "Honey, I'm quitting my job."
That must have gone over well. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That went really well. But the reason for me to go into hypnosis was I wanted the freedom. I didn't want to be commuting 12 hours into the city every day. I didn't want to miss those precious moments when the baby was born.
Yeah.
And so I took 3 months off to be there to help my wife transition into motherhood. And then I opened my practice, the Bay Area Non-Smoking Center. And I knew, so there's something a little bit different about a smoker compared to some other hypnosis clients that we might have. Are smokers particularly health conscious? There are, I'm making sweeping generalization here, but generally no. Are they new agey or into alternative forms of care? Generally no. They've tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed so many times they have very little confidence in themselves to change, and they're coming into hypnosis as a last resort.
I was just thinking that. It's like I hope this works because nothing else has.
Right. So that's who's walking in the door. and they're tense because there was traffic on the way to the office in the Bay Area. Like, who would have thought?
Who would have thought there'd be traffic in San Francisco?
But there was traffic, and they're having trouble finding parking, and there's weather, and they're walking in like this, and I'm going to take them and try to put them into a progressive relaxation. It's like, no, thank you.
No, thanks. Yeah.
No, I'm going to take what they give me and like a jitsu master and use the energy they bring in. So they're not a typical client, and I wanted to meet them where they were and give them what they need. So I showed up every day in a suit and tie. I don't do that anymore, but back then I wanted a professional office with a reception.
You wanted to look the part.
Right.
We can't see your face, just so you know.
I'm enjoying not being seen here. How's that?
But I wanted to. I wanted everything to look professional, so I built my own website with a GoDaddy template 16 years ago.
That's like one step better than GeoCities from the early 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
My website is no longer serviced by GoDaddy. It's like, seriously, I can't even make an edit anymore.
But it's not how you get business.
That's not how I get business. No. How I get business is, I started off advertising. Mm-hmm. So I advertised in the back of the East Bay Express as a free newspaper. I put a 16th of a page picture ad there, and the phone started ringing. So that's how that lasted me the first year. And then it's kind of dwindling out. And so I figured I either needed to find a new profession or double down. So I knew better than to ask my wife about advertising on the radio because it's really expensive. And she'd say, like, you're nuts, don't.
And you already told her, yeah, I'm quitting my job, honey.
Right. So I didn't tell her. I just plunked down several $1,000s for ads. And then I knew the schedule when the ads were running. And I called her into the living room, and I had the radio on. And I just started making small talk with her. And then my voice came over the radio. She was like this. And then she's like, you're on the radio. I said, yeah, I am. And she's like, how much did that cost?
That was your first marriage, right?
And then the phone rang. I said, sorry, honey, I'll have to talk to you about that a bit later. I have to take this call. And then the phone rang again, and the phone rang again. So I started off advertising on the radio, and that built me up a pool of clients. I wouldn't recommend that anymore because there's so many better ways to advertise if you're going to advertise. But how I get my clients is by having a heart-centered approach with my clients in the session. So I connect authentically with my clients from a unconditional loving space. And when
secret to rapport, guys.
I mean, we all know that we need to have rapport, have a positive expectation, and in order to have a hypnosis happen. But there's something beyond that. And when I started teaching hypnosis, my students would come back to me and say, "We can't do it like you can." What do you mean? Don't put me on a pedestal. I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, you don't have to do it like I do it. Do it the way you want to do it.
Practice and when you get so much practice, you'll be better than me. Like, believe me, my training was horrible. And what happened was they kept coming back saying the same thing, and I found out they were right. There was something that I was doing that never occurred to me to teach. And I had clues, like I would get video testimonials two years after my clients had successfully stopped smoking. And there was a common theme amongst them. And they said, I never felt judged by Ken.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was a bad person because I was a smoker. And it still didn't clue into me. But I was coming at this, I wasn't judging them. I was coming at them with this unconditional loving place. But since I wasn't doing it consciously, it means I wasn't doing it every time. And sometimes it would just, like, I'd be 20 minutes late, and I started pushing clients through.
And leave that out.
And leave it out. And my success rate would drop. And then finally it clued in. I'm slow, but I get there eventually. And I realized this is something that is foundational that I now start every training I ever teach with this, how to create this unconditional loving space with the clients and shine that into the client. And what happens is, when you start off from an unconditional loving place, I just connect with something I feel unconditional love for, which right now is my son, Xander. And he's 10 years old. I coach his baseball team. And he says, come snuggle with me, Daddy. And I'm like, I'm on borrowed time with him. Like, yeah. That's going to be gone in the blink of an eye.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into something else equally wonderful. But this is so precious to me right now. So I connect with that, and I shine that into my client before they even walk in the door. And when you are shining unconditional love into your client, the trance begins immediately. The critical faculty naturally melts away.
Resistance goes away. Their appreciation for the fact that you care. They can tell that you legit care. Yeah. It boosts rapport. It's going to amplify results. I can see how that makes a difference.
And then which leads to the next thing. So everything I do in the session is methodically thought out and builds on the previous step. But that's the reason I've been 100% referral is it's what happens in the session. So I don't need to advertise, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
I like it. In a nutshell, it's care about people and don't be a dick, right?
Pretty much. Interestingly, when I went to one of Igor Ledhovsky's amazing trainings at Hypnothoughts many years ago, and he had us sit across from someone, close their eyes, and think of who we absolutely love in the world or what we absolutely love. For me, it was my Bengal cat at that time. And look in the eyes and feel that. Then open your eyes and look at the other person. It was mind-blowing. I was working with...
you were working...
nicely.
Were you working with... Yes, Rick.
And we both just teared up immediately. It is such a powerful place to do therapy from.
I taught Igor that.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I tell him in our
actually,
call tonight.
let's come back to that actually, let's do that right now. So we, as MikeMandelHypnosis.com, and we run the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, we have over the years developed this idea that we're bridge builders. We build mostly because of Hypnothoughts Live, because of the experience of meeting guys like you and Carl Smith and all the other names that we dropped earlier. We've made a lot of amazing friends and realized there's so many great trainers, and nobody should be limited to just having one teacher in a field that they care about, that they deeply want to learn more about. So we've started bringing in all kinds of different guest trainers, sometimes flying them into Toronto and doing weekend-long trainings like we did with Melissa Tears and Carl Smith and Jack Wins and James Tripp, Michael C. Anthony. And other times we've done it online via Zoom. And in fact, you came out for an hour and did a freaking mind-blowing. People were just going, oh, that's how you do smoking cessation. And you only gave them a few little bits.
Some snippets.
You have how long is your full smoking cessation training?
4 days.
4 days. So in an hour, you gave us some bits and people were just leaving going, this is amazing. Now, these were not public trainings. These were for members of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. You can sign up at our website anytime you want. And we brought in Igor. He did this thing on hypnotic gifts, which was phenomenal. And we brought in so many other amazing trainers. But I want to talk about you and how did you become, or did you already always have this natural congruence in the way you present? Because when you stand at the front of the class, it is important, or when you're with a client, it's going to be the same way. You've got to be congruent so they buy into the fact that you know what you're talking about.
Well,
and you said you had, sorry, let me add this. You said just a moment ago, I had crappy training. Now, obviously that changed because you had to improve along the way and get all this improved training, but you start off with bad training. How'd you get to be congruent and awesome?
My training was a 5-day hypnosis course, and there was 1 day on hypnosis. The other 4 days were on marketing.
Oh wow!
How to drop brochures off into tanning salons. They spent 4 days on that,
and then how to read scripts to people.
Read the script really fast.
How to drop what off into
brochures in a tanning salon?
Come on,
and then read scripts at your clients.
Yeah, because and so that was my hypnosis training. Now there was a lot of brilliance in the script. But even that was like, well, that's kind of a negative suggestion. That could be rerouted, and that could add recipes in. And so I started. That was kind of my MO in corporate. Is I would parachute into a disaster and rearrange everything, get it all humming, get people working together instead of fighting each other, internally. And so that's what I did. And out of that, I created the Guzzo protocol, which is a 10-minute neurological tapping process. But you're right. There needs to be a congruence. You need whatever you're doing. Like, don't try to be somebody else. I mean, you two have teamed up together to create what I think is the greatest hypnosis training on the planet, and putting it.
Thank you. Your check's in the mail.
Well, but seriously, I mean, what you're putting on video and capturing forever and putting into a format that people can easily learn at their own pace and having live events and all the things you're doing that are innovating our industry. You guys are the masters at this, and Mike, you've been doing hypnosis for so long now.
Yeah, I'm
quite a while. Quite a while.
But you have to be who you actually are. Instead of trying to be someone else. So you learn a technique I was like, well, what is it that causes that technique to be successful, to make it yours, so that you're not just regurgitating someone else's technique, but
it's your own presentation of it that becomes you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you start off with an unconditional loving place, you can't help but be intentionally congruent and
it's a natural outworking from that intention behind it. Yeah.
I have a funny feeling that this idea works in other areas of life too. Like if you went into any situation with this unconditional love, it doesn't matter if you're doing hypnosis formally or not. If you're just having a conversation with a good friend or someone you just met who's going through trouble, it doesn't matter whether you're a therapist or just an everyday person. That's probably an attitude in life that works in so many different ways.
No, just hypnosis.
I saw the look in your eyes. This is a good joke opportunity. Oh, that's great.
No, you're absolutely right. Even having, if you say we're going out for dinner, it's like, well, what's the intention for dinner? Instead of just going out for dinner and having whatever happens happen.
Yeah, you're not going alone, presumably.
How about holding an intention that I'm going to ask great questions to bring out the best in others? How about holding an intention to be genuine? And I'm going to a wedding tomorrow. First time to see my family in 3 years, because thanks to COVID. And I'm going to go there with an intention about getting deeper with people that I've missed for so long.
Yeah.
And
rebuilding and restructuring. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna throw some questions at you, Ken.
Okay. Yes.
So what, from your experience, are some of the biggest misconceptions that are brought to you, maybe from clients or maybe from students, about hypnosis?
Okay. Well, okay. I got one to start. This is my pet peeve.
Here we go. We'll fix that for you.
Pet peeve. Okay. People that use the term under hypnosis.
Under. Ooh. Are you under? Can you make me go under hypnosis?
Right. Here, you guys talk about this in your...
We talk about the idea of submerged,
Yeah.
So we're not gonna emerge people from hypnosis because they're not submerged.
Right. So when you go under hypnosis, and if you're a stage hypnotist, you want to use under hypnosis, I think that's perfectly fine. But in a therapeutic setting, I think it does a disservice, because the perception when you're under something is there's something external that's affecting you that you have no power to overcome.
Right.
I'm trapped under a piano.
Yeah.
I'm under the influence of alcohol. I'm under anesthesia.
That's a great point.
External. And what happens is the hypnotist is looking to you for their experience. What are you doing to me? And what inadvertently people will do is they'll resist the hypnosis to prove to them that it's working.
Yeah. Like, you mean the client is looking to the hypnotist for what are you doing? Yeah.
So it's instead of just going into their experience, so it's like we're not under a dream. We're not under love. We're in love.
We're experiencing.
It's a state of being
that you're experiencing together. You're facilitating them being
psychodynamic
space for them to have an external experience within themselves,
a life-changing experience.
And when someone's holding that it's the hypnotist doing it all, then they're going to often resist to prove that they're not just going along with it to make the hypnotist happy. So they're resisting to make sure that it's real. It's not that they're resistant to the change, but I'm going to push it to see if it's really happening. And then I'll say to them, I noticed you're resisting. You can resist if you want to, but it's not what you're here for.
It's not why we're here. Yeah.
That's a great line, because you're giving them back the autonomy.
I'm inviting you to have an experience of hypnosis within yourself. And suddenly, instead of looking at external, they're looking internal, and boom.
Yeah, they're no longer looking at the cause and effect relationship with you, that it's some sort of clash.
Yes.
But, you're trying to do this on me and I'm going to resist. No, it's we're working together so you can have an experience that you are creating yourself.
That's right. That's one. Another one is when I see hypnotists making too big of a concern about getting the client to threshold. That the client needs to get themselves to threshold.
100%. We so agree with that.
So we're hypnotists. You think we can get a client to threshold within the session? Abso-freaking-lutely. But there was one hypnotist, I won't mention any names.
Is he in this room?
He's not in this room.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
He's talking about you.
Shut up, he's talking about you.
But I heard him talking about if I have a smoking client, even if I've got an opening the next day, I'm going to make them wait 2 weeks. And if they're smoking 2 packs a day, I'm going to have them cut down to 1 pack within a week, and I'm going to have them cut down to 0 cigarettes the day of their session because I want them all amped up and having cravings because I'm going to leverage that. Now, the person I'm talking about, I want you to know I have huge respect for, and he's very successful. So everyone has their own style. We talk about being yourself. So
Sure.
I'm not trying to change him at all. But the message he was putting out, think about it. If someone came to see you for a phobia, you wouldn't have them hold a spider on day 1, lick a spider on day 2, lay in a bathtub full of spiders on day 5 before we would never do that why would we do that to a smoker? What is it that causes us to treat smokers so horribly? And it's because what's going to happen? They're either going to fail out, nobody served there,
and they won't show up.
And you got a missing slot in your appointment
Yeah.
in your schedule, so that's no good.
If they could go 2 weeks without, or whatever the time, like 1 week without smoking,
What do they need you
why
for?
do they need you?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I know we have often taught, don't have them smoke the day of the session, but that's a very different situation. They're building some craving so we can activate
I would
that
do
ego
that so I
state.
can activate it and take
But
it
not
down really
freaking
fast to show that it's
days.
going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, beautiful. And like I said, I'm not criticizing. Everyone has their own style.
Right.
I'm not saying there's only one way to do this at all.
Right.
And you know, absolutely. But this 2 week lead in,
That sounds crazy to me.
and then what happens is either they fail out or they lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
and
oh,
they
I didn't
say,
smoke
oh
today.
yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
did.
And now the client's going into the session.
And they think they got you.
They don't well, they know they don't deserve the change because
Yeah.
I cheated, and it's going to cause their success rate to drop. So for all those reasons, we can revivify the problem state in their mind with emotion. We can light up that neural pathway. I say, what's the worst thing about smoking? What's the worst thing about that? What's the worst thing about that? And they're like, oh my God. Like sometimes smokers will minimize how big of an issue it is for them. And we absolutely need to raise that
Yes,
up.
and bring up the
Yeah.
whole aspect of consequences, that
Yes.
there is going to be consequences for this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so basically we're saying make sure that the client knows that you're not doing hypnosis to them and that you're not responsible for bringing them to threshold. You can help them get there, but it's not your responsibility as the hypnotist to put someone into hypnosis and put them under or make them want to change.
I don't want to shift someone's dependence on cigarettes or anything else to a dependence on me.
Exactly.
Everything I do in the session is about empowering the client, sending them
Reinforcing,
out with the strength in their own ability and their own confidence in self.
I like that. That makes a ton of sense. Okay, so let's move on to any of the biggest tips that you can identify that you've learned from other trainers. Of course, we're big fans of suggesting people learn from multiple people.
For sure.
So what would you say are some of the things that you've learned from other trainers in hypnosis that are just awesome?
From Mike, you know, when
He has to say this.
just bringing some hypnotic phenomenon into the session. You know, whether it's an arm levitation, or having, you know, I'll sometimes have clients fall into my arms and have them fall into me. And it's bringing hypnotic phenomena into the session, because instead of just having them sit in a chair, close their eyes, and have you yap at them,
And have no experience.
Right.
They don't have an experience.
It's amazing to me because I use it as a teaching tool. And I'll have someone fall into my arms 3 different ways in 3 different directions. And then I'll have their arms levitate this way and that way. And they're standing there like this, having fallen into my arms twice. And I say, do you know you're hypnotized right now? And 95% will say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that's what are you kidding me? Do you normally have your arms levitate for no reason?
Is this a typical phenomenon in your
That's
life?
a great way to ratify the trance, right?
And so what's that person thinking who just sat in a chair and closed their eyes for an hour? And what are they thinking? Am I hypnotized? I don't feel hypnotized. I can still think. I can hear everything he's saying. I'm not knocked out. So if they can say no to me after all that hypnotic phenomenon, I use that as a teaching tool. This is trance. Laughter is a trance.
Oh, for sure.
I do laughing yoga with people. Crying is a trance. You can see it happening.
But you don't do crying yoga with people.
No, I don't do
Just
very
clarify this. Those of you with concerns. Yeah.
But we're in trances all the time. I say, you're not coming to me to get hypnotized. You're already hypnotized. You're coming here to break the trance.
Change the trance.
So you can be who you
Get a
actually
better, more
are.
empowering one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great one. Any other tips that you've got? Like, can you think of any other really inspirational trainers that you've learned something meaningful from? No pressure.
Well, I learned some really great things from Martin Peterson. And what happens, we met at the IHF conference many years ago, like 2012, I think. And he was teaching a course on stage hypnosis and his life regression work, which he calls, that doesn't matter what he calls it. Can't remember at the top of my head.
That's okay. We admit that we've forgotten what it's actually called, but Martin Peterson, a European hypnotist, awesome guy.
So Martin's amazing. And I wasn't interested in the past life regression because I had all these preconceived judgments about it. How come everyone thinks they're someone famous like Cleopatra, right? And he explained to me, he said, well, that's because they're not going deep enough into trance because they're bringing the ego along the way. And I said, well, explain this to me. He's like, and when you go deeper, it's about what needs to change in your life to benefit the quality of your life. Maybe there's something that's been dogging you need to cut the strings on, or maybe it's something you need to download from a deeper part of self. And when I'm doing this type of work with a client, I'll even say to them, I don't know if you're in a past life. I don't know if this is something spiritual or not in that regard, but I don't know if it's from your imagination or if you're tapping into the oneness of the universe, or if it's something in your DNA that your ancestor remembers that's programmed into you. I don't know where it's coming from, and I'll admit that. But what I do know is when we tap into that deep part of self and cut the strings or whatever needs to happen, it affects people's lives in this way, in a wonderful way. So I don't do a lot of those types of sessions, but they've all been really powerfully impactful. And I'm going to take the client from what they want. If they want to do that type of work to make the change happen for themselves.
It's always honoring their model of the world.
Exactly. It's not about accepting my model of the world. It's about honoring their model.
Like, I don't believe in past lives, but if I've got a client who flashes back, or when I was doing therapy, flashes into a past life, I'm not going to blink. That's true for them. So I'm going to work through that and facilitate them getting the maximum change from it.
Exactly.
We have to honor each other.
Yeah. And I
even Chris, we have to honor him too.
Thank you, guys. I was just sitting back here seeing if I can get you guys to keep talking. Awesome. So we got a couple of awesome tips on things you've learned from other hypnotists. We've learned a lot about what you've done. I think we should probably wrap it up pretty much now-ish.
Right. Let's ask, how can people get a hold of you?
Before we do, talk a little bit about what you're doing now, what you're passionate about now, and how people can reach you. Yeah.
What I'm passionate about is it's actually work that I've been doing since longer than I've been a hypnotist. So I call it evolution intervention. It's a 4-session process over 3 months, and it's perfect for people with deep-seated issues like serious addictions, trauma, and chronic anxiety. But it's also, ironically, the same process I use for professional athletes and C-level executives that want to knock the cover off the performance and take it to the top.
Take it up to the next level.
Because it's about clearing from the nervous system on a cellular level that what's in the way. And I guess this kind of ties into your previous question. I think sometimes, just sometimes, hypnotists work so quickly, they don't take the time to really nuance the problem and really clear it fully from the nervous system. So
check your work,
yeah. So if you got a laptop that's running Windows Vista, you remember Windows Vista?
Unfortunately, I was just going to say the same.
And you don't know the password, you just press space bar and it'll let you in. Yeah, I remember it.
Highly secure.
It was a pig, and it crashed all the time and sucked up the memory. Well, if I said, I got this MacBook Pro software or firmware we could just load into your PC, what do you think would happen? It would crash.
Yes.
But what if we could eliminate the operating system completely and then lay it down? And I think sometimes for deep-seated issues, it's important that we don't gloss over that we actually take the time to fully nuance the problem.
Clear up the
not
past.
Just root cause, which is important, but I think of it more of a rhizome.
Okay.
Like, the rhizome is like, there's a mushroom in Oregon that's 6 miles square. It's all the same plant, or banyan trees or rhizome. And so you pull something off and it can reappear on the same plant somewhere else. It could grow off of a tree. It can, there's all places it can show up. And when we cut off the direct route to the problem state, to the, what we call the root cause, sometimes it can pop up in other places. So I want to honor how they've grown through their problem, because they've they're still alive and they're thriving in some
they're
way
still
or shape or
functioning
form.
somehow. Yeah.
So I want to honor that and clear, but fully clear from the nervous system, the problem state. And what they end up feeling is not only do they get rid of the problem, but the relationships are more authentic. The bodies transform. I feel that people with rashes, migraines disappear.
So it just resonates through all of their relationships
That makes
and how they live
so
life.
much
I totally
sense.
concur with that. That fits our model very well.
I just want to throw in that really resonates with the idea that we'll call any disease is dis-ease. And it can be emotional too, right? So there's massive
very
emotional component to dis-ease. And if we can build back, we can clear up the past and recreate ease in someone's life, they have a better life.
Right. Right. So it's a 4-session process. I actually charge $5,000 for it. And I notice a lot of hypnotists, I was saying that hypnotists deserve to thrive. And so many hypnotists are doing great work out there, but they're not necessarily
Not charging enough.
They're
not making it, they're
not
not thriving. So I show people in the course how to, like, I don't sell this. I explain it, say what it is, and it's $5,000, and people say, and you shut up.
Yeah. Or
and
they go, okay.
And then they say, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
It is, and as soon as I started teaching this last year, like magic, all these clients started showing up at the same time. So what shifted in me and teaching it but I've never advertised it, and I'm getting $5,000 clients almost like weekly. And it's now the biggest part of my practice. So I love teaching that. I'll be teaching that at Hypnothoughts. There's one spot left
we'll get this video up really quick, man.
I'll be teaching it again in November in Sacramento. So that's what's up for me. How to get a hold of me? North American Academy of Hypnosis.com, or for Hypnothoughts, it's Ken Guzzo, KenGuzzo, HTlive.com. Or you can call me. Give the phone number.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Give your own anytime.
We'll put it across the screen.
1-800-635-8150.
1-800-635-8150. Dial Ken. He'll make you smile. He'll make your life better. He's an awesome guy.
Free Ginsu knife with every third call.
I think that was a very productive podcast, guys.
I think it was too.
Thank you. So I want to say thanks to Ken for visiting us, being brilliant, being friends with us. Hey, do I get a fist bump too? Oh, there we go. There we go. And we're gonna go eat off because we haven't eaten in a long time. We Mike and I just wrapped. Ken, you did it fast too, but then you
don't start a new subject.
But yes, so there we go. We're gonna leave it here. Thanks again for listening to this does not have an official number. Brain Software Podcast. In-Betweener with Ken Guzzo. I guess we'll call it In-Betweener 01. Go to Hypnothoughts live website, htlive.net. If you're interested, we're going to be there. Ken's going to be there. And you've got Ken's information. You've got ours. You can come to MikeMandelHypnosis.com if you want to join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy, where you'll find some training from Ken because it's awesome. All right. So let's do it. Let's ring the bell and say thanks again and good night.